My name is Lytton Smith. I'm the director of the Center for Integrative Learning at SUNY Geneseo. Delighted to be here with colleagues from City of Asylum and from Monroe Community College, including Mike Jacobs. This is our three-part Arts of Asylum series featuring distinguished writers, musicians, and artists, along with community partners serving refugee and asylum-seeking populations. And we have three goals for this series. One is raising awareness about the City of Asylum network. Another is helping to create a new City of Asylum in Rochester. And the third is to explore how the City of Asylum Rochester can engage in creative placemaking to support local communities. Tonight we have a fabulous event involving the musician Mai Khoi, being introduced by the Executive Director of City of Asylum Pittsburgh, Andrés Franco. We will also be welcoming Armand Hall, the Director of Rock Music Collective in Rochester. So spanning the cities of Pittsburgh and Rochester tonight. The chat has been disabled, but you will have a chance to ask questions using the Q&A function. We welcome those questions at any time, and we will make sure towards the end of the evening we get to those. But if you want to put questions into the Q&A during the event, you're more than welcome to do that. Just don't worry if we haven't got to them right away. If you are interested in catching up on the first event of the series, I've put a link in the chat to our event series webpage where you can watch the recording of our Writing in the City of Asylum event from Thursday, September the 16th. As I'll say at the end of tonight's event, we're also looking forward to a final event on Thursday, November the 18th, also at 5 p.m. Called Visions of Place, which will focus on visual art and murals. Finally, we gratefully acknowledge grant funding from Bringing Theory to Practice's multi-institutional innovation grant series, which makes this project possible and fosters sustainable collaboration between community organizations and higher education. Hopefully people have had a chance to join us in the webinar now. I'd like to welcome to the webinar Roberta Schwartz, who is spearheading efforts in Rochester to create the City of Asylum. And Roberta is going to speak more to us about her work and about the City of Asylum project. And then she will be introducing our first of our guests for the evening. Roberta, over to you, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Lytton. Good evening and welcome to the Arts of Asylum series. We're so glad that you're joining us for a second program. My name is Roberta Schwartz, and I'm dedicated to establishing a City of Asylum here in Rochester. Especially for those of you who are new to the concept, allow me to share a bit of its history with you. My initial fascination with this project began when I visited my beloved childhood weaving teacher, Diane Samuels, one of the original founders of City of Asylum in Pittsburgh. After not seeing one another for far too long, we met in Pittsburgh about 4 years ago, and she gave me a personal tour of her studio and the City of Asylum, located in the north side of the city. As a homegrown Pittsburgher, I was especially delighted and amazed to witness and experience the spirit of the arts that now pervades the neighborhood. Diane and I walked through the urban surroundings, featuring a broad array of Victorian architectural styles. This is where she and her husband, Henry Reese, live and work. I listened to her offer a brief history of this relatively young Steel City landmark. In 2004, City of Asylum in Pittsburgh opened with a mission to provide sanctuary to literary writers who were exiled and under threat of persecution. Since then, this fertile organization has grown and enriched the entire Pittsburgh community with a series of houses for use by writers in exile, each with artwork on the facade. And let me just share with you some of those homes. Let's see. City of Asylum, Alphabet City, contains their offices, a permanent space for arts program, all of which is free to the public, a bookstore featuring works in translation, a neighborhood restaurant, and a lovely garden open to the public. It's a hub for artistic and community partnerships that expresses humanity's best creative impulses. According to one review, it's a place where Pittsburgh meets the world and the world meets Pittsburgh. And let me just show you Alphabet City. Then the lounge the stage here that features free performances, also a picture of the bookstore with books in translation, which is really absolutely spectacular. The City of Asylum provides sanctuary to endangered literary writers, musicians, and artists so that they can continue to create and their voices are not silenced. This organization supplies free housing, travel expenses, healthcare, and a stipend. It also brings together and builds community by supporting new and challenging cultural experiences led by local, national, and international voices. These free programs are easily accessible and unpretentious. That artistic vibrancy, that opportunity to share cultural experiences, and that emphasis upon protecting world-class artists in need is something worth bringing to Rochester. In support of that, my husband and I have purchased and furnished a house in the city of Rochester. We will make this house available rent-free to an exiled literary writer under threat of persecution. To get up and running, we need a not-for-profit status from the IRS, and that has been a daunting task during these tempestuous times. Josh Gewald and Autumn Young of the law firm Harder and Seacrest have generously offered their services and recently filed our application. Mike Jacobs, Dean of Humanities and Social Sciences at MCC, and Lytton Smith, Director of the Center for Integrative Learning at SUNY Geneseo, have put together this series, which is supported with a grant from Bringing Theory to Practice. And folks from the City of Asylum Pittsburgh have repeatedly offered their support and our assistance for our plans to bring a City of Asylum to Rochester. As a longtime grant writer, I intend to work hard to bring funding support to this endeavor. That will take place just as soon as we receive our not-for-profit status. Why am I so committed to doing this? I think it has to do with the power of storytelling. One of the characters I find most interesting in Richard Powers' novel, The Overstory, is the environmental activist Adam. Adam asserts that, and I quote, "the best arguments in the world won't change a person's mind. The only thing that can do that is a good story," end of quote. Powers and his character Adam recognize that compelling stories help us turn outward and adopt a more collaborative, interdependent, compassionate, and imaginative behavior. The City of Asylum, which brings together art and activism, displays that sense of expansiveness, creativity, interdependence, kinship, and finally hope. This Arts of Asylum series is a virtual interactive forum featuring distinguished writers, musicians, and artists, along with community partners, serving refugee and asylum-seeking populations to raise awareness about the City of Asylum network, to help create a new City of Asylum in Rochester as the 5th United States City of Asylum location, and finally, to explore how the City of Asylum in Rochester will engage in creative placemaking to support local communities. Let's get to the heart of the evening by introducing our guest, Andrés Franco, who was appointed Executive Director of Pittsburgh City of Asylum in October 2020. Mr. Franco's new role allows him to fuse his commitment to creative, free expression with his real-life experience as a foreign-born artist in Pittsburgh. A native of Medellin, Colombia, Andrés Franco became a US citizen in 2015. Mr. Franco formerly served as resident conductor of the Pittsburgh Symphony, music director of the Signature Symphony, and executive director of Caminos del Inca. This evening, Andrés will introduce and speak with the creative, talented, and courageous Vietnamese singer and activist Mai Khoi, who will share her story with us and perform her music. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We look forward to your engagement in bringing the City of Asylum to Rochester.
Well, thank you, Roberta, first of all, for your efforts to expand the Cities of Asylum network into Rochester. We look forward to the time when that opens up. It would be great to come and visit you. Also, thank you for the invitation to be part of the series and for the lovely introduction as well. So yes, the City of Asylum started almost 17 years ago with that very specific goal of providing a safe home for exiled writers. And the organization has changed over the years. When the first exile writer arrived, Wan Zhang, he really changed this community. He changed the city. He changed the state even, and he brought the best out of people. What happened was that Pittsburghers who did not write poetry decided to start writing poetry to show him their support. He had been imprisoned, he had been harassed and persecuted and tortured in China, and people just wanted to tell him that they were with him here in Pittsburgh. So it was really an eye-opening experience because, of course, it was wonderful to have Wan Zhang be able to write again. But I think the people that benefited the most from his presence were actually people who are here in the community. So now, 17 years later, we have had many writers from China, from El Salvador, from Burma, from Venezuela, from Iran, from Bangladesh, from Syria, Ethiopia. And now we have the first exiled musician in residence here at City of Asylum, and Mai Khoi is with us tonight. She is a singer and activist, and she had to leave Vietnam because she self-nominated for political office on an anti-censorship and pro-democracy platform. And of course, the government did not like that, so she started being harassed. And she tells the story so beautifully through song, through performance, and that I'm going to just invite Khoi to tell us a little bit about her story. And I know that there will be some singing, some video throughout the evening today. So Khoi, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Andrés. Thank you, Roberta. Hi, everyone. I am Mai Khoi from Vietnam. My name is Mai Khoi, but you can call me Khoi, not Mai. I was born in Cam Ranh and in a family of teachers. My father was a music teacher, and he taught me how to play guitar, write songs, and singing. And that's why I come with the music. And I was playing the keyboard and singing in the wedding band with my father when I was 12 years old. I received a lot of local voice and composition awards. And then when I finished high school, I moved to Saigon to study music in the academic music school and started to build my singing career. In 2010, I won Song of the Year award, and I became famous, and I became a darling of the state. I was invited to perform for their ceremonies on TV, on radio, and I had a lot of fans. But I wasn't really happy about that because in Vietnam, all of artists have to submit their work to the government to ask for permission before publishing or performing in public. And as a pop star, they censored me. And every time I performed, and I thought artists and art shouldn't be censored. I hate the censorship system, and I hate the censors. So I found the way to fight the censorship system. I organized secret concerts and exhibitions without asking permission from the government. And I have a lot of people trying to our events and encourage much more independent artists to work without thinking about the censorship system. And then in 2016, I nominated myself for the National Assembly election. And since that, I was banned from singing in public until now. And because of my activism, I was detained, I was evicted from my house, and I was forced to leave my country at the end of 2019. That's why I am here now. I'm living in exile, and now I'm an artist residency at City of Asylum, Pittsburgh. And because I have a safe place to stay here, so I am able to working on my ongoing project called Bad Activist. So Bad Activist is a performance that combines storytelling and music, where I can tell my own life story of a pop star became dissident artist, an activist. And these projects with the arm that's encourage more artists, not just artists in Vietnam, artists around the world, and people around the world will become an activist. Yes, so I'm very happy to share with you all the video of Bad Activist that I made this video at City of Asylum stage. Yeah, I had another performance, a live performance as well, but Andrés is gonna share the link of that performance. Now I'm gonna share you the video of Bad Activist.
School and moved to Saigon. I performed 7 different gigs a night. I earned enough money to release my first album, and it had a hit song. My first hit played non-stop for months in cafes and bars and TV and radio. I helped my parents and my brother build their houses with the money I made. When I wrote a song about how much I loved Vietnam, it won Song of the Year. Vietnam is a one-party state that doesn't allow any political opposition. The media is controlled by the government. There is no freedom of expression. But my career was hard. I was invited to perform at government ceremonies. Fans sent me gifts all the time. One even sent me a cell phone covered in diamonds. On talk shows, I gave women advice on how to stay young and beautiful. Các bạn có biết bí quyết để giữ gìn sắc đẹp và sự trẻ trung của Mai Khoi là gì không? Là phải yêu thật là nhiều. Life was easy. Life was good. All I had to worry about was who I was going to love tonight. One day when I was rehearsing in front of 5 censors from the Ministry of Culture, one stood up and shouted at me, "Ngon! Ngừng ngay lập tức. Ai cho phép cô mặc bộ đồ này lên sân khấu? Thay đồ ngay. Nếu không tôi sẽ cấm cô biểu diễn suốt đời và tôi có đủ quyền để làm chuyện đó. Cô có tin không?
Cộng hòa xã hội chủ nghĩa Việt Nam độc lập tự do hạnh phúc. Cộng hòa xã hội chủ nghĩa Việt Nam độc lập tự do hạnh phúc. Xin ông cho chúng tôi được đưa tiền cho ông, để ông cho chúng tôi được làm việc. Xin ông cho chúng tôi được dối lừa theo ông, để ông cho chúng tôi được ngu ngốc như ông. Xin ông cho chúng tôi được hát, cho chúng tôi được bày tranh ra ngắm, cho chúng tôi được yêu, cho chúng tôi được cúi lùn. Xin ông sự dã man tàn ác. Xin ông cho chúng tôi được phát hành sách, cho chúng tôi được đi lại tự do, cho chúng tôi được bảo vệ tổ quốc. Xin ông cho chúng tôi được chia sẻ thông tin, cho chúng tôi được làm từ thiện, cho chúng tôi được quyền như trong hiến pháp, quyền như trong hiến pháp, được quyền như trong hiến pháp. Xin ông cho chúng tôi được phát hành sách, cho chúng tôi được đi lại tự do, cho chúng tôi được bảo vệ tổ quốc. Xin ông cho chúng tôi được chia sẻ thông tin, cho chúng tôi được làm từ thiện, cho chúng tôi được quyền như trong hiến pháp, quyền như trong hiến pháp, được quyền như trong hiến pháp, được quyền như trong hiến pháp, được quyền như trong hiến pháp.
Not long after that, a journalist was interviewing me. I confided that I felt exhausted by the censorship. He told me a secret. Anh rất hiểu em, bởi vì những bài thơ của anh cũng bị kiểm duyệt. Các tập thơ của anh đâu có được xuất bản, và anh trở thành một nhà thơ phản động. His poems changed the way I saw the world. I wondered, how could I make a difference? We became friends, And one day, when we were drinking coffee in an old French villa, he said to me, Mai Khoi, anh có cái ý này hay lắm nè. Em rất thích hợp để làm tự ứng cử đại biểu quốc hội. I couldn't believe it. I had no idea that I could nominate myself for the National Assembly. But the law states that citizens over 18 without any criminal record or mental health issues can nominate themselves for the National Assembly elections. Maybe I could get into Congress and become a voice for change. Maybe. On the 9th of March 2016, I nominated myself. My nomination sparked a huge debate. Journalists were lining up. A reporter from the New York Times flew to Saigon to interview me. It became an international news story. No celebrity had ever nominated themselves for the National Assembly election. People didn't know about their right to participate in politics. Now they were asking questions. But the government was not happy about this. They tried to make me stop, insulted me, dismissed me. The secretary of the National Assembly went on talk show and said, nếu chỉ biết hát thôi thì vào quốc hội rất khó. I was ready for a fight. And so were they. 2 weeks after my nomination, the police raided one of my concerts. And when the news appeared in the papers the next day, people became afraid of attending my concerts. And all of my shows were canceled. Some of my friends started to feel uncomfortable around me. My best friend and I had worked with her for a long time. I helped to produce her first album. I wrote her hit song. She told our friends that they should stay away from me.
Từng là bạn thân của tôi, giờ là an ninh của tôi. Người bán thông tin của tôi rủ rê bạn bè xa lìa tôi. Từng là rất thân của nhau, từng chia cho nhau yêu thương, từng sáng cho nhau niềm đau em bộn bề trong từng câu hát. Cho rằng tôi u mê hoang đường, là cho rằng tôi là mối nguy hại cho những ai còn đang gần tôi. Tránh xa tôi ra người nói, tránh xa tôi ra nếu không muốn thân tàn mà. Em thích làm chú cừu nhỏ, ngoan ngoan ngoãn ngoan ngoan ngoan. Chưa bao giờ muốn phản kháng khi chứng kiến chuyện trái ngang. Chưa bao giờ em tự hỏi mình đang đúng hay đang sai sau những lần bạn bè ái ngại em cũng chẳng còn thiết chi ai. Vì cuộc đời không còn quá dài, sao em cứ giả vờ đóng kịch mãi? Sao em cứ hoài lại nhải? Sao em cứ giả vờ đóng kịch mãi? Don't tell me how to live my life. Don't tell me what is wrong or right. Don't tell me anything. You better stop giving me advice. Đừng bao giờ khuyên tôi phải sống cuộc đời như em. Đừng bao giờ bắt tôi phải sống cuộc đời nhạt hèn. Đừng bao giờ khuyên tôi phải thành công như em. Sống lập lờ, sống ơ hờ, tiến thân trên những cơ hội là những thứ tôi chưa quen.
One morning in April, I opened up the newspaper and I found out I was rejected from the ballot. The published list of the candidate didn't include my name. I'd been erased. I was afraid of losing hope, afraid that the government would silence me. I read an article about President Obama coming to Vietnam, and I thought, that's it!
President Obama, I want to meet you when you come to Vietnam in May. Please make time to meet me and other civil society leaders. We need to talk to you.
My video went viral, and I received an invitation from the US Embassy. My crazy plan had worked. But now, the police were following me 24/7. In Vietnam, among people old enough to work, 1 in 6 are either police officers or working for the police. I couldn't sleep. All night long, I kept imagining my arrest. When the sun rose, I took a taxi to the US Embassy. After many checkpoints, I was clear. They brought me to a conference room, and there he was.
We have a very popular artist here who is speaking out on behalf of freedom of speech and expression.
Thank you, Khoi, for sharing this portion of Bad Activist. I shared the link in the chat so that everyone can go and watch the program. This is really a powerful performance that took place here in Pittsburgh at Alphabet City, at City of Asylum. And I really encourage everyone watching the program today to go and check it out because it's really a powerful performance. Now, I want to remind the audience that you can ask questions. There's a Q&A button in the Zoom webinar, and you can ask questions through that Q&A button. We are going to leave some time towards the end of the program to answer any audience questions there may be. But I have a couple of questions of my own for you, Khoi. So you are now here in Pittsburgh. Tell us a little bit about your experience at City of Asylum and in the city of Pittsburgh.
I really love City of Asylum because I am having a very beautiful house to stay, and all of the staff at City of Asylum very nice, very friendly, very supportive, and all of my problems of my life, they help me to resolve it. And especially I love the stage at City of Asylum where I can perform, I can record, I can do video, I can create so many things there. That's really, really good for a performer artist like me. And I love Pittsburgh, the city. I've been travel a lot around the world for performance, but right now Pittsburgh is my favorite city. And I want to stay here forever, like people here are so friendly, like my neighbors and my musicians friends at Pittsburgh University. They are so nice, so kind, and always supportive. And yeah, they love me, and I love them so much. So I want to stay here as long as I can.
Well, the city is my Pittsburgh is my favorite city as well, so we can agree on that. And yes, it's wonderful to have you here and to have you here creating. Now, I always wonder, you started this movement in Vietnam when you started playing these underground concerts that were not advertised and they were getting around the government censorship. You started something that is powerful, that is very important, that is very much needed. And of course, you had to leave the country because of your own personal safety. Have you been able to stay in touch with your friends, with your activist friends in Vietnam, now that you have been out of the country for a couple of years?
Yes, I am still able to get in touch with my activist artist friends in Vietnam by social media and some apps, some secure apps. And we still organize secret events, screenings, and concerts, underground. I left Vietnam at the end of 2019, came to New York. But then after that, a few months, the pandemic came, and we didn't really have a chance to do much more than what we want to do. But we organized the screening series in every big cities like Đà Nẵng, Huế, Nha Trang, Saigon, Hanoi. The screenings of my documentary, the Mai Khoi and the Dissidents documentary. And that's the way we keep in touch and work with artists, independent artists, and try to engage with young people, students, and audience.
So I am always wondering, what is next for Mai Khoi? What are you working on right now? Which projects do you have in the pipeline?
Yes, so Bad Activist is my ongoing project. What you've seen in the video is just the first track, the demo of the story of the performance. What I want to do, and I am keep doing now, is developed Bad Activist into the full-length version. Like it should be long, 75 minutes or maybe longer, because I have so many stories to tell. And we need to make it more artistic, and we need to have more engagements from the audience and the local artists. That's what I'm focusing on now.
Yeah, I have to tell you that after the performance, people were really moved. The performance of Bad Activists here in Pittsburgh, they were very moved. Many of them were saying, wow, this is really an opera. And it's even more than an opera, because it really combines storytelling, it has songs, and it draws you in a very, very, very special way. So I'm looking forward to seeing the new iterations of Bad Activist. Now, you mentioned that one of your songs won the Song of the Year award in 2010. Can you tell us more about that song? Would we be up to performing something for us today, something live?
Yes, sure. The song that won Song of the Year award named Vietnam. I wrote that song 15 years ago, and it was a time that I have hopeful. I really have a lot of hope for my country, and the songs is hopeful and very welcoming and very nice. But now I have another contain another songs about Vietnam that I want to tell. So that song is called I Am Yours Now. That song I will perform now for you. This song I wrote about the relationship between Vietnam and Vietnamese government and Chinese government, and how people suffer from that. Trời ơi em thành của anh rồi, đất em thành chỗ anh ngồi, bên em là nơi anh xa xa. Trời ơi em là của anh rồi, qua tay vài con dấu đỏ. Em là của anh, không cần giọt máu nào rơi. Không cần ô nhục, không cần thân phận, không cần biết gì, chỉ cần ở This instrument's called gong. It's come from Zarai ethnic group. The minority ethnic group live in the central highland of Vietnam. I've learned to play this instrument from them. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Khoi, for performing for us. I see a couple of questions in the Q&A. One more reminder, if you have questions for Khoi, we're going to answer them towards the end of the program. Just use the Q&A function of the Zoom webinar, and we will make sure that we get to all of your questions. Now, Khoi, I'm as Roberto said at the beginning, I'm a conductor, also I am a pianist, and I had the privilege of performing with you one of the songs, which actually completes the video that you were showing before. We stopped the video of Bad Activist right when you met with President Obama. How did the meeting go?
Yes. So after the meeting, I went back to my house, and there 4 policemen were waiting to arrest me. And I was very disappointed because President Obama didn't really do anything to help to promote human rights in Vietnam. So that's why I wrote this song, Just Be Patient. So just be patient is the sentence that Obama told me in the meeting. He told me just be patient because we kind of blah, blah, blah. So I really happy to play this song with you, Andrés. You're a great pianist and you make me feel more when I sing my own song with your piano playing.
Let's hear Just Be Patient.
Before you came, I dreamt of you. You with your power to make wrongs right. For you, I put myself on the line. For you, I was prepared to do time. All around, ghosts and demons, serpents, snakes, and deadly creatures wanna get me, kill me, burn me. You once were the half of my life. You once were the half of my life. I saw your halo shining bright. Then you gave me some advice. Just be patient. 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 You once were the half of my life. Now I'm hopeless.
Thank you, Khoi, again for your performance. You have now completed that part of the story after you met with President Obama. So thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. As you saw, I'm a pianist too, or used to be a pianist, and also a conductor. So for this next part of the program, I'm very happy to introduce one final guest Dr. Armand Hall is the executive director and artistic director of the Rock Music Collaborative and an adjunct professor at the Eastman School of Music. Rock Music offers free instrumental music instruction to the children of Rochester, New York, in the neighborhood community centers. Dr. Hall came to Rock Music from the University of Memphis, where he was associate director of bands and coordinator of instrumental music education. Dr. Hall has taught, adjudicated, and been a clinician at the middle school and high school levels, in addition to collegiate teaching, and worked as a teaching artist in El Sistema-inspired community music programs around the country. He earned bachelor's and master's degrees in music education from the University of Michigan and a doctorate of musical arts in wind conducting at Michigan State University. Additionally, Dr. Hall is the board chair of El Sistema USA and serves on the boards of the Archipelago Project, Rochester Youth Philharmonic Orchestra, and is on the administrators of the Dr. William P. Foster Project, aimed at supporting excellence in music education and community impact in under-resourced areas. So I'm actually familiar with El Sistema, with the El Sistema project. It's a wonderful program, especially the ones that have been inspired. I am originally from Colombia, South America. The El Sistema project started in our neighboring country, Venezuela, and it did spawn some El Sistema-like programs in Colombia, where you basically reach to underserved population, underserved youths, and bring musical instruments as a way to bring them into a community, and we really are effecting a social change through music. So this is wonderful to have you with us here. Tell us a little more about rock music in Rochester.
Well, first, let me just say, Khoi, the fantastic performances, both the live and the recorded, and Andrés, a fantastic performance. Thank you guys for sharing. And I think the most exciting thing is that this is what we want for our youth and these El Sistema inspired programs throughout the country. It's community music programs that are trying to find students and giving them a vehicle to have an artistic voice, exactly what Khoi is doing. And so here in Rochester, which is a seat of a powerhouse music program in the Eastman School of Music and a long history of great music programs. And we have a fantastic Philharmonic Orchestra and the Gateways Music Festival, and all African-American, all musicians of African descent orchestra that meets here usually biannually. There's a lot of great music going on, but it's not necessarily happening in the community. So we're trying to build a sense of community and a sense of self-awareness and artistic expression by teaching them the skills of music making, but not just leaving in it how to play an instrument, but how can I represent myself and my community, my family, and the people around me by playing this instrument. So we try to do as many concerts as we can inside of the city, making sure that the students are getting out and about and using these new skills, and we allow them from the get-go to start to create their own pieces. So yes, we're teaching them how to play the instruments and how to sit in ensembles, but at the same time giving them freedom through electives and other avenues to create their own music. We bring in people such as Andrés or Khoi to come and speak to the students and perform for them, and hopefully inspire them to keep up this artistic skill, this lifelong learning. So the great thing about the Rock Music Collaborative and what drew me to the program is that it is all about building and leveraging relationships. So there's 7 organizations in the city of Rochester that decided to start this because they felt that they weren't doing enough for the youth in Rochester. And our youth, we're talking right now, our program serves 1st and 12th grade. So we're talking students from 6 years old all the way through 18 and are older. And we're trying to incorporate their families to say, you can learn this instrument. So these organizations built this infrastructure, and we build partners and collaboration to make sure that we can bring arts education to these students inside and out of their schools. A lot of our students are Rochester City schools, but a lot of them go to charter schools and public schools. We have homeschool students in our program. And so there is not equity in that access to good music instruction. So we're there to bridge that gap, to either be an enrichment if you have music in your school program, or to be the only music instruction that you receive in an effort to give you a voice in this lifelong learning. So I'm really excited about the City of Asylum coming to Rochester and building something out so that we can help create an artistic representation and artistic leadership voice inside of the community and have our students see that and realize that they too can represent, and you don't have to be from somewhere else to make sure that you are representing the community. One of the other things is I, as a new person in Rochester, found out that we have a lot of people from other places aside from Rochester here in town. We have great populations of Puerto Rican families that have moved up here because of climate change and hurricanes, and they're creating spaces for themselves. And we want to make sure that our students can tap into those artistic representations and learn about these cultures here in their own town, and hopefully incorporate that into this mosaic that is Rochester. So the thing of our program is also that it's very intense. We bring in the students for 6 hours or more a week of music instruction. So this is not just placing an instrument in their hand. And we hope that that intensity will allow them to catch up to either participate in the wonderful music offerings that are afforded to maybe more socioeconomic or more highly educated families, to know that those opportunities exist. We create partnerships so that our students can go to concerts and see artistic performances such as Khoi and Andrés, so that they have that as a model for themselves. And then we try to support other programs. So a City of Asylum or a food bank, we partner with other arts organizations to make sure that we're saying that art is important in our town. And we want our students and their families to be able to participate, and we want to remove as many barriers as possible. So in the Rock Music Collaborative, we're looking to do that on an everyday basis the best we can, and always looking for new partnerships. And I hope that once the City Asylum becomes a little more established, that we can create a partnership there so that our students can learn from these wonderful artists that they're bringing into these communities, and providing that sort of space, safe space to validate them. And El Sistema, as Andrés was talking about, started in Venezuela, but what it has become in the United States is a way to create social change by giving this music instruction and allowing this artistic voice to happen in communities across our country. So whether they be rural communities or highly dense urban populations or everywhere in between, the idea is that El Sistema is creating a community within a community with the goal of supporting the community and uplifting everyone and validating the members of the community. So these music lessons are happening all across the country, not to create professional musicians, but to create human beings like Khoi who can express themselves however they seem fit with this musical skill and the innate talent that we all have as humans. So I hope that wherever you are, you're finding your El Sistema inspired program, as we call them, and you're checking out what's going on. If you'd like to see some of our students perform, and we have students who are very beginners or students who are more accomplished, you can check out our website here. I will also give you, if you would like to know more about El Sistema in the United States, an organizing body of which I'm the board chair is called El Sistema USA. And it's a membership collective that allows these disparate community music programs to connect with each other, learn from each other, partner when we're more regionally connected, and an idea of creating this larger community, exactly what's happening with City of Asylum. So when I heard about the City of Asylum, and I appreciate Lytton Smith for bringing me on and welcoming me here, this sounds exactly like what we want when we think about our students and our youth as lifelong learners. Where can they end up and how can they support arts in their community? So I appreciate you letting me come on and tell that story, and hopefully we will get to do performances again together soon.
Well, thank you, Dr. Hall, for the great talk about El Sistema. I have to share something about an El Sistema inspired program in Colombia. It's called Batuta. And it's a nationwide program, so they have students from everywhere. And I was visiting Colombia because I was guest conducting the National Symphony, and a friend of mine used to run the program at the time. So he asked me if I could go for a visit to a place, and then this was basically a house in a neighborhood that had been converted into a rehearsal space, and you had children from many, not only children, but mostly children in that particular one from many different walks of life. And he asked me if I could sit for one of the auditions. And this is one of the most moving experiences, musical experiences and human experiences I have had, because there were 2 or 3 kids from the Amazon department. So Colombia, the southern tip of Colombia has a border with Brazil and Peru, and the Amazon River flows through it. And these kids were doing the Batuta program. They had to take a boat from their home for 2 hours in the piranha infested rivers around the Amazon, and then they didn't have instruments at home. They went to this hut where they would have some instruments and then a video, a TV and a VHS player, and they would go there and practice the instrument watching a videotape. And there was one instructor that came once a month and taught all string instruments. So it was not a violinist, he taught violin, bass, cello, anything that had to be taught. And that's how the kids learn. And then they took the 2-hour boat ride back and did not have an instrument to practice at home until the next time they came. And I have to tell you, their musicianship and the way they played, there were really no mistakes musically, but the most important thing was to see how they were so invested in learning how to play an instrument. And they came to Bogota, the capital, to take this audition. So they went from living pretty much in the middle of the Amazon jungle to come into this urban jungle of Bogota with 10 million people and trying to understand how to navigate a completely different social environment. But they were just amazing musicians, and it just showed that level of commitment, and it shows what the arts can do anywhere. That's the thing. Of course, these people did not grow up listening to classical music or playing an instrument. They lived in a very different environment, but they devoted themselves to music, and they were able to master their instruments. So that was really an eye opener of how music and the arts can change lives anywhere, and it's exactly what you're trying to do with rock music. Is really what City of Asylum is doing, is just bringing writers in particular, but artists from around the world, and putting them in touch with the community, and showing that if there were no barriers of access to the art, everyone would be able to enjoy them. And that's exactly what we do here. So I think it's time to open for the Q&A session, and I see we have a couple of questions here. One is for Khoi, Jonathan Baldo, and sorry if I mispronounced your last name, is asking Khoi, is all of your music currently banned throughout Vietnam, including the song that won Song of the Year?
Oh, not all of my songs banned in Vietnam. I was banned from singing in public, but they still use my song to promote for Vietnam's tourism, the song Vietnam. Yeah. But another songs, like I wrote songs about human rights or corruption or freedom of artists or freedom of expression. Those songs is banned in Vietnam.
And I see another question for Khoi. It's an anonymous question, anonymous attendee. How does Khoi work on new arrangements to expand her songs from one solo artist to a larger band?
Yes, that's what we working on. I collaborate with musicians from Pittsburgh University to arrange my songs with the full band, and in the future with the orchestra band. And yeah, we are working on that. And I really have to work with many musicians, composer. I can't do it by myself. Yeah, that's how I love Pittsburgh. People here are so talented and very, very supportive. I've learned a lot from them. I also have a director for bad activists. She's from Pittsburgh University as well. Her name is Cynthia Crute, and we are working on the development for bad activists.
Now, Khoi, this reminds me of a project that you mentioned. I didn't watch the program, but you had a project in Vietnam with folk instruments that you were putting together. Can you tell us more about that project?
Oh, yes, that project was very interesting. We gathering all of the ethnic musicians and their instruments. We do workshops together. We learn from each other, and we create a series of performance together. Because Vietnam have 54 different ethnic groups, so we have a lot of instruments, and we create like the ethnic orchestra band and write songs together and perform together. So what you've seen is still on my website, but that project have now we can't do it. We can't make it happen more because we run out of money.
I have a question for Dr. Hall, I think he's still around. And yeah, the question is, how have you worked with newcomer communities in Rochester? In which ways you have done it, and what kind of communities are there in the city?
Correct. Well, there's two ways, and I'm a newcomer to Rochester. You know, I was born in Detroit, Michigan, and spent time in Memphis while I was teaching there. So coming here, I understand that it's my job to figure out what the community is here, not to say this is the sort of music that we should learn, but to figure out who is there and what they want. And I know for a fact that we have a very diverse Hispanic community, and we have an Afro-Hispanic community and a more traditional Hispanic community. And so finding those cultural ideas to uplift, whether it be, as I mentioned earlier, the large Puerto Rican community here in town, and making sure that, for example, I learned about bomba drumming. And so we now have a bomba drumming instructor who teaches all of our students, not necessarily our Puerto Rican students, about this music so that they can, you know, learn about their neighbors and their cultures. Here in Rochester, we also have a school called the Rochester International Academy. It's a public school, but it is specifically designed for refugee population, people who have just moved into town where the students and their families don't speak English. So this is a place that we try to reach out to allow them to say, our program is here, and you don't necessarily need to speak English, but you can be learning this music along with other students to sort of welcome them into the community. And hopefully through that process, we find out more about their communities and uplift their musical cultures as well.
That's a wonderful way of inviting new, people who don't speak the language. Of course, the language of music, you don't have to communicate verbally. You can communicate non-verbally, and you can still communicate as you are learning how to speak English. So that's a wonderful initiative. I wanted to remind the audience that if you want to ask questions of Khoi, of Dr. Hall, or myself, you can do so by using the Q&A function here in the Zoom webinar. Have you worked, Dr. Hall, one more for you, have you worked with non-traditional instruments? I'm just curious, hearing Khoi talk about this project of creating an orchestra of folk instruments and ethnic instruments. Have you had any opportunities to do that during your career? Not just with rock music, but throughout your career?
Throughout my career, I'm a big proponent personally of new music, and so commissioning pieces for different sort of chamber ensembles. And when you get into that chamber ensemble, you can add different voices in. And so usually I let the composer decide what the ensemble is. And so we've worked with composers who have decided to put in their own traditional national or cultural instruments into that, to support and uplift that. I don't play any other instruments. I'm a clarinetist, and so that's what I play. But I certainly support finding ways to value the performance on other instruments. And I've had a lot of students in the past who, while learning a Western traditional instrument from me, also played an instrument in their family's ensemble. And so acknowledging their already existing musical knowledge, I think, is important to just make sure that they feel valued as a person in general. So they might play these other instruments. And so I go to those concerts and support that, even though I can't play and or teach them myself.
Right, very good, thank you. One final question that was just added to the Q&A portion. This is for Khoi. Khoi, are you continuing to write for a Vietnamese audience and working on getting your music past the censors? So 3 questions. Are you still writing for the Vietnamese audience and trying to get your music past the censors? Are you planning to write for an English-speaking audience? And how would the different audiences influence what you write?
It's a very interesting question. Thank you for asking. Yes, I'm still writing songs in Vietnamese still, because my English is not enough to write songs. It's very difficult for me to write a song in English. But I think the main thing is I don't think about the audience. I think music can transfer the emotions, and that the feeling, the emotion, the truth, and that is the main thing I focus when I create new songs. And people around the world, whatever language they are speaking, they can feel the music. Music likes the world language. So I'm not worried about writing for a Vietnamese audience or the English-speaking audience anymore. But what you've seen in the video, I have to speak in English to tell my story, because I want the bad activist performance will be on tour around the world, and that's why I speak in English. And sometimes I still speak in Vietnamese. Embody someone in Vietnamese, and I speak in Vietnamese. You saw that. About the censorship system in Vietnam. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say that we will make a big change in the future, but we always try to encourage independent artists to work without thinking about asking permission from the government. So I think maybe in the near future, like 5 years or 10 years, when no one asking for permission, the censorship system will automatically repeat. That's what I hope. That's the way I fight the censorship system. Is that answer your question?
I don't know. I hope it answers Jonathan's question. But Khoi, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being with us today, for performing for us, and for sharing your story. Also wanted to thank Dr. Hall for sharing his work with rock music. And of course, Lytton, thank you so much for having us, and Roberta for all your efforts, including putting together this series. Thank you so much, all of you.
Thank you very much. I'm so happy to be here to talk with all of you, and thanks for having me. Thank you.
We're so grateful to the 3 of you for what was a really energizing, inspiring, and enlightening conversation and set of performances this evening. And I know people have a lot of links to go away with, to learn more about the work that's going on. And I think people will feel inspired to get involved. I hope people can join us again on Thursday, November the 18th, 5 p.m. also via Zoom, where we'll be focusing on the role of large-scale murals. And you got to see the house paintings a little bit in Roberta's talks that exist at the City of Asylum, Pittsburgh. And so we'll be talking a little bit more about those and introducing the work of Rochester muralists who advocate for social change, including Sarah Rutherford and Sean Dunwoody. So the link to registering is in the chat, so you don't have to go looking for it. As I say, I'm extremely grateful to Armand, to Andrés, and to Khoi for everything tonight. It's been wonderful to have you here, and I know I speak for Roberta and Mike in saying that. And we wish you a lovely evening, and thanks again for being here.
Thank you so much.